Hello, and welcome to Dagobah. I have Luke with me here today. This is a copy of the Dagobah toy box that I used for my Return of the Jedi project that premiered for the 10th anniversary Disney Infinity event back in October of 2023. In that toy box, the logic was quite simple, just to show Luke's final conversation with Yoda before he passed on into the cosmic force. In this version of the toy box, I've added activities and logic that follows the story of Empire Strikes Back a little more closely. So I've had this toy box for a while, and I've recently come back to it and made some improvements, some modifications, and I've been wanting to provide everyone with a tour and a showcase of it. So this was one of the little things I had in the original toy box, where Luke can use the Force here and move this log in place as a walk path to Yoda's hut. And this is pretty much all I did with that toy box for Return of the Jedi. Here I've redone the logic a little bit. So the sky changes to brighten it up inside the hut. So there's Yoda's cooking pot, his bed, and there's Master Yoda right there. So I'll have a brief little conversation here with Luke with the text displayer. I'm not sure why I used that angelic light effect. I guess I just liked it. But after his brief conversation here, the sky changer will change back to the dark sky. We'll continue on with our tour here, and I'll show some of the mini games and activities that I created for this toy box to make it more of a Empire Strikes Back inspired toy box. We have Master Yoda over here again. He has a training activity for us. It's a challenge. This is actually a two-player challenge. Course is designed into two separate courses with the same amount of points available. I intended this to be a test of lightsaber skills. You could also use it as a shooting range, but it works. There's not enough targets. You could shoot these targets much faster than what the 2-minute timer goes for. But the idea here is to progress through the course, overcome the various challenges such as jumping. Came up a little short with that lightsaber crash. And of course, every miss is seconds lost. I tried to provide a variety of challenges in this course. I also have music playing. I have the music silenced for this video. For the basic toy box, the main theme is Yoda's theme. When this challenge begins, this course, I'm playing the Cantina music, which is kind of fast-paced, fun music to have for this type of challenge. Like I said, I have the music silenced for the purposes of this video. There's also a path that direction for player one. The same amount of points available if the player goes the way that Luke is going right now. And then when we get to this central point here, with these targets here over this log, this is where the two courses combine. So potentially player one and player two meet here in the middle and maybe have to compete with each other for these points. So that perhaps adds a little bit of a fun measure if you're doing this as two players. So now Luke is progressing through the backside of player two's course. So the challenge ends when the timer expires. It's a 2-minute timer, and whoever has the most points is the winner if it's a two-player. So over in this area, this is kind of the only unused section of my toy box. Went into spark mode here. So I'd like to have an activity over in this corner because I really have nothing going on, but I don't have any good ideas. I was thinking maybe of a stacking activity using the force. I don't want to get rid of that tree cluster because it's part of defines part of the path for the course for player 2 for this challenge. I don't have any really good ideas. I probably need to expand that side of the toy box, but if anybody has a good idea for a good mini game to play, leave a comment. I have the memory. I can certainly add at least some extra room for my toy box and add at least one more mini game and still have plenty of memory for it. So I'm starting a challenge again here. So Luke's player 1, so that's why he starts there. There's a locator there for player 2's starting point. And it's the same amount of points, but a little bit different challenges here for player 2. It's not an identical design in the course. The spacing between the targets here, the armored targets, is the same spacing as course 1. But the points are available in a little bit different order, but the same exact amount of points are available as course 1 for player 1 until the 2 players potentially meet in that middle section where there's a bounty of points available. And perhaps they might have to kind of duel it out too and compete with each other, particularly if your 2 players are competitive, like I am, and like my daughter is. We'd probably end up attacking each other to try and earn those points. Kind of makes me think of 72 Pringle and his daughter Ahsoka in their epic competitions. Quite competitive, two of them are, much like my daughter and myself. So again, this is the end of course 2, and you see the 2 ending pass for player 1. And the central area here where there's a lot of points available. Now, of course, Luke is, just to finish out the timer here, Luke's continuing along player 1's path. So I made the 2 paths here, so when they meet in the middle, there is unless player 1 decided just to try and go after both paths, ignoring that middle section. There are additional here to the right on that other second path for player 1. There are additional targets for the 2 players to potentially compete for. And like I like to do with most of my logic, as you saw, this challenge is completely repeatable. So there's logic from the challenge maker that repeats all of that. I have a couple vultures. There's several locations throughout the toy box here where I have some wildlife, some vultures circling. Also all the sound effects you hear, the crickets, the frog, the thunder, that's all done with the sound effects repeaters and time delayers for this toy box. That's all in-game. So here, I got the idea. The force jump isn't high enough to get up to the top of the cliff here. So I came up with a little force activity here, super jump. And if the player doesn't aim correctly, you miss and it tells you not this time. And if the player comes up short, again, using trigger areas to create the message, text display messages. If you get it correct, there's a nowhere vent on a path just below the surface of the river there that directs the airflow up. So it looks like Luke is doing a super jump. So it's another little fun force activity, being that he went to Dagobah in Empire Strikes Back. I'm getting my movies all mixed up. He went to Dagobah in Empire Strikes Back to be trained, to begin his proper training from Yoda. So that kind of takes care of this corner of the toy box. That corner there to my left is where the challenge for the targets begins. And I have a lake monster. This was also in my original toy box for Return of the Jedi. I put this in. There he is. And he just goes back and forth on a path, up and down, and I have a monster sound effect, and if you try to attack him, he'll eat you. So you won't have any success. Luke won't have any success in attacking that lake monster. But he just goes back and forth on this river and circles through the lake and back up the river to the waterfall, then back down the river to the lake again. This hut, the base of this is one of the Endor tree bases, building sets 2, I believe it is, and this entire hut, in order to fit it within the boundary boxes, was built using the path tool. And that's how I placed all of that in there. Fortunately, that pot with the green stew, the witch's pot, that fit inside without, because it won't connect to a path. That just naturally fit inside the toy box, so it was perfect. I didn't have to do anything special. I didn't have to use replayers or trigger ears. It just fit right in, so that was good. So we come over here, and we've got Master Yoda again. He has another lesson for Luke, and he says, warning. The only thing in there is what you take with you, Luke. And I was really happy with how the entrance to my cave and the cave came out here. And we get Luke's encounter with Vader, which ended up being he was just really fighting himself. And you can see that I have all of this constructed within the boundary confines of the boss fight spawner. And I set up the logic so you enter the trigger area, you spawn Vader, you exit, the spawner is turned off because I like to be able to repeat everything. So that's my repeat logic. So as you look around inside here, we have all this nice detail. The wall and cliff ledge pieces from the terrain drawer toy box. And after my tour here, I'm going to show you how I accomplished this using some advanced building techniques. I pay attention a lot to that brown bat and his building techniques. He shows a lot of his advanced building techniques using trigger areas and replayers and doing multiple recordings on a single replayer. So as you see in here, this is a much smaller space than what the actual bounding box confines of the boss fight spawner are. And so building around it gives you a really big space that really just doesn't fit the movie or fit the mood of the scene. So I wanted a more combined, tighter space, but I wanted it to have a lot of detail. So like I said at the end, I'll show you how you can do this. It takes a bit of reverse engineering. And even I think coming out of the cave entrance here looks pretty cool. It's nice and secluded with the trees, with the grove of trees around it and the fog. And even after Vader has been defeated, I have reset logic that resets the boss fight spawner, so you can repeat it. It's not a particularly big toy box. It has, like I said, a number of activities, but given its relatively medium to small size and only a few activities, the ability to just repeat those activities as much as you want, particularly the challenge if you're doing two-player, to challenge each other more than once. I like the replayability. I always have reset logic. And this is the final activity I'm going to show you, rescuing Luke's X-Wing from the bottom of the lake. And this design and logic, I got this from the Bowtie guy, from his Dagobah. In fact, the aesthetic of this, the appearance of this toy box, is largely based upon Bowtie guy's tour of his Dagobah toy box that he provided a couple of years ago. So you rescue his X-Wing from the lake, and then you can help Luke practice his approaches and landings so that he doesn't crash in the lake when he returns to the toy box for Return of the Jedi. So let's see how good Luke does here this time. It looks like he's learned a lot of lessons from his first landing. Great job, Luke. Nice soft landing, well as soft as Disney Infinity will allow you to land one of these vehicles. thought I heard the looking for the lake monster here again. He's maybe exiting the lake, not looking for him here. Here he comes. So once again, you try and attack him, he'll eat you. So just let the lake monster go in peace, and he'll let you go in peace. So I have a trigger area here, so along with my theme of being able to reset these mini games, stepping into it resets the X-Wing back to the beginning of its path. And you can now use the holocron here to rescue the X-Wing from the bottom of the lake again if you so choose. So just doing a quick flyby here, showing the entire scope and size of the toy box. We have Master Yoda's hut. Over here we have the little super force jump activity. To the left of there was our challenge for hitting the targets. We have Vader's the dark side cave here. But I have nothing over in this area. So like I said, I have the memory. I could maybe make an alcove over here. I want it to be a good idea though, and I don't have any. Like I was thinking of a stacking event, but to what ends? Because the stacking only goes as fast as you set the speed on the path. So I kind of ran out of ideas, but if somebody has a good idea, I'd be happy to incorporate it in the game and maybe show it off in a video. Okay, we'll proceed with the tutorial here, and I'll show you how to construct the cave inside of the boss fight spawner. So start with this flat terrain block as part of the floor of our cave. And I purchased on eBay the Dinosaur World power disc set, and I'm going to set my theme to that. When I first constructed Dagobah for my Return of the Jedi project, I didn't have that power disc, so I used Dragon's domain, which also works well. But if you have Dinosaur World or can get your hands on it, this is really perfect for Dagobah or any jungle toy box. I have a cave tunnel here as part of our entrance, and that's on the front of that terrain block in the middle. And then I have some extra pieces set aside here, a terrain ramp, this overhanging corner as part of the ceiling, this large cliff ledge is part of the walls, and all of those of course are themed to Dinosaur World, which will happen automatically when you set your theme, of course. And for our logic tools, we have a replayer, just one. We're going to do a triple recording with this, and a trigger area. These are techniques I've learned from watching That Brown Bat's channel and his build videos, and our boss fight spawner. So let's go ahead and pick this up again and grab a couple of these blocks here and fill out the remaining of our floor. And then we'll use these along the sides and the back for our walls. So the first thing you need to do, you need to do a little reverse engineering. You need to kind of define what the boundaries of your construction area are going to be. Put a couple of these tiny terrain blocks, not very tiny, but put one here on either side of the cave entrance to finish out that front wall. So that defines our interior space. So you need to kind of figure this out first. And like I said, I wanted it to be a little smaller, a little more intimate, more matching the movie set that was used in Empire Strikes Back for this dark side cave. And you can see, had I built it around that boss fight spawner, it would have been a much bigger interior space, which just doesn't give the same look or feel. It doesn't match the movie set nearly as well. But fortunately, these building techniques help us get around that limitation. So I'm going to step on my replayer, I'm using an Xbox, so that's my controls. I'm going to hit A to record, step off, and I'm going to pick up this cliff ledge, and I'm going to start placing these in for our interior walls. So I'm going to put 3 on this side wall, put another 3 over here on this side of our cave, and I'm going to step back on. I'm going to hit A to stop recording and B to clear the replayer, and the box inside now should be empty again, and it is. Alright, going to need this for our cave entrance, so I'm just going to place one of these large cliff ledges off to the side for easy access when we get to building the walk path down into the cave. So I'm going to step back on the replayer, do a second recording, hit A to record, and this time we're going to pick up this same large cliff ledge, and I'm going to put 2 on the back wall and switch over to the medium cliff ledge for the front wall here next to the cave entrance. So we're going to come in 1 space, 1/2 block space from that edge of the wall, and same thing over here, a 1/2 block space. That would be a full block space. I used a 1/2 block space, so just like that. And then we'll step back on the replayer, hit A to stop recording, B to clear the replayer, and now the box should be empty again, and it is. Alright, we'll come back to our replayer. And let's see how it looks so far. So I'm going to step back on, and I'm going to hit the X button, and I'm going to do a playback. We'll jump over here for us. So now you can see with that double recording how we have these cliff ledges blended in together on the corners of the walls, and it makes a nice rocky, rough appearance to it rather than just being boring flat terrain blocks. But that leaves us with potential of having just a flat ceiling, and again that would look kind of boring and not very entertaining, so that's why we're going to use these pieces for the ceiling. And we're going to use our replayer again, and we're going to make a 3rd recording now with this same replayer. So step back on, hit A to record, actually before I do that, just checking that it's or I'm sorry, I hit B. I hit my B button to clear, and then I was making sure it was empty. Now I'm going to hit A to record. There we go. Got a lot of sequence there. Sorry about that. So I first cleared those wall pieces, and now I'm recording again, and we're going to place these in the corners. So raising it up here just to show you the orientation of how I place this in my corners. So 1 in that front corner, spin it 90 degrees, and this one will fit over in this front corner, oriented that direction. Spin it 90 degrees, and we'll go to the back corners. And again, I'll raise it up for you so you can see my orientation. I'll place that inside, rotate 90 again, and one last time I'll give you a look at that orientation just so that's clear what I did. And then we'll grab these overhanging ledges to fill in the middle part here. Oriented that way, spin it around 180 degrees, and oriented that way. Alright, hit B to exit. Step back on our replayer, hit A to stop recording, B to clear, and I should have an empty box again, and I do. Alright. Luke will step back on the replayer for us one last time here. Take a look at it. X to playback. Force jump over. Nice job, Luke. Thank you. And now we see we have all this really nice detail coming into the cave here along the walls, the ceilings, the corners. And this Dinosaur World power disc really looks fantastic for this toy box. It looks like there's vines or roots clinging to the sides of this over the stony walls, rocky walls. Just a lot of fantastic detail that makes this a very interesting area. It does a good job of matching the kind of the feel of this cave that where Luke encounters Vader, which actually ends up being just a metaphorical fight against himself. Alright, now we need to remove everything and place our boss fight spawner. So I'm going to hit B to clear. Should have an empty spot, and we do. Grab this trigger area, and before we clear our remove our side walls, let's place these trigger areas because we're going to need these. We're going to need these to put the walls back in, as well as when we play back on our replayer. These have to be in place, otherwise the replayer won't put the pieces in. And notice I'm overlapping my side walls and my back wall here a little bit. That's so I can put those terrain blocks back in inside the boundary limits of the boss fight spawner. So making sure I place enough to capture all the pieces, these terrain blocks, as well as the triple recording from on the replayer. So you can see those boxes are slightly inside the trigger areas, and it doesn't unfortunately work in reverse. You have to have that placed first, so that's why you kind of have to figure out what your interior is going to look like, and you have to remove it all. And then, so I deleted those because we'll put them back later, and we'll just move this one aside because we'll use this to put all those blocks back in. So now we can move this down into position, and it sits there right on the front edge of the front wall. That's why we didn't need to overlap that with the trigger areas. So we can grab this terrain block again, and now with the trigger areas in place, that allows us to place these inside the bounding box of our boss fight spawner. So for the more basic terrain blocks, you don't need a replayer. You can use this trigger area effect, or this trigger area trick. And you can see now that the bounding box of that boss fight spawner is well outside the limits of the interior space of the blocks. I step back on my replayer and I hit X to playback. Now you can see our boss fight spawner there is in position, and we now, with the replayer and the trigger areas in place, we put these ceiling pieces and these wall pieces back in when we did our playback on our replayer, and we have this fantastic cave with all this design inside the limits of our boss fight spawner. Without it being an overly large space. So this is a little smaller, more intimate, enough space to have the boss fight, but gets a little closer to the interior space of the movie set. All right, I'm going to grab this guy right here, this trigger area, place that aside because we're going to need this for our entrance. And in Spark mode, very carefully, make sure you point to the trigger areas and not the blocks, otherwise you'll be redoing this, or the boss fight spawner, or you'll be redoing all of this if you delete anything else. So carefully remove your trigger areas so you can save a little memory because you don't need them anymore. And I'm going to grab our cave entrance here, cave tunnel, move out and up one block. Place two of these to help form the walk path down into the cave. And we're going to use these ramp pieces. That's why I set that aside before. So we'll be starting up here at ground level, and this is going to move down inside. And that's why we need the trigger areas. And notice this last piece here. Notice there's a gap there. Where that meets the floor of the cave, there's a gap. Now I could just put in flat terrain blocks along the side. Then it would look boring again. It would just be flat, boring pieces, and not fitting with that rocky, very rugged interior look of the cave. So that's why I put this cliff ledge out here for future use, which we're going to use now. And I'm going to come under this cave tunnel, and that's going to fill in those gaps and give us a nice rough finished look as the player descends into the cave down the ramp. I'm going to put 2 up here at the surface level for the beginning of the entrance, just so it's not boring and flat either. Now we'll grab our trigger area. So no replayer tricks needed here, just these trigger areas, but it has to be in this order. The ramp will fit into these pieces, but these pieces won't fit over the ramp with the trigger area. So the order, this is order dependent. That's why I'm building it this way, by putting the cave tunnels and those cliff ledges first, and then the trigger areas to fill in those spaces, because now that allows us to slide these terrain ramps into position, overlapping the boundary boxes of these other terrain pieces, the cliff ledges and the cave tunnels. So over 1, down 1, over 1, down 1. So 3 of those small terrain ramps. Then I'm going to move over here and grab the terrain ramp, which is 3 blocks wide instead of 2 blocks wide, as our last piece. And that gets the player down to the floor level of the cave. Go ahead and pick up this piece, put it back, and I'm going to need this this terrain block. There's a need to fill in that hole right there. So fill in that gap, and then to fill the gaps underneath these ramps so that light doesn't show through. We'll put these at the base of these ramps. Again, the trigger area helps us do that, and has to be in this order. These blocks will fit inside those other pieces, but not the other way around. And I'll grab 2 of these long 1x3 blocks to finish filling in those gaps. Now we can once again very carefully point to your trigger areas, not your terrain pieces, otherwise you'll be doing it again. And to save some memory, we can delete these trigger areas. Alright, so that is our cave entrance. Grab that piece again, go to the next block bigger, and we'll make the rest of our surface level here around the cave entrance. 2 on that side, 2 over here. Grab this tiny terrain block again. I always kind of laugh at the name of that. There's nothing tiny about it. And there's our cave entrance. I'm going to grab some fantasy terrain here. The 2 themes I used was the Briar Ridge theme and the jungle theme for my trees and plants. So I'm going to kind of create a boundary, a border that conceals this entrance. Like the movie said, it was very much a lot of a thick grove of trees and jungle plant life surrounding that cave in the movie set. So the Briar Ridge theme achieves that for us, and the trees themselves look like it has vines hanging. So I'm just placing some of these around here to create a dense grove of trees that both conceals the entrance as well as gives it a nice atmosphere, aesthetic look that resembles the movie set. All right. Now I'm not going to hit my X button when I theme this because I don't want to theme all, so I'm going to theme each one individually. Otherwise I would lose my my other fantasy terrains that are set to the jungle theme, because those were my 2 main themes for my plants and trees. Okay, so they're all themed to the Briar Ridge theme there. Exit out, and we'll take a look. So there's our thick grove of trees concealing the entrance. It looks like there's vines hanging down, very much like the movie set. So we have this nice, relatively small concealed cave entrance that looks very much like it would be part of the underground of a dense jungle planet like Dagobah. When you add in your smoke as fog, it makes it even more eerie and dark side of the Force looking. And here's our boss fight spawner with all of this excellent cave detail existing inside of its bounding box. It gives us a fantastic look, including even when looks good even when a player is exiting the cave. Out into the surface level, again with this dense grove of trees surrounding it, concealing it. So that concludes my tour and playthrough of my Empire Strikes Back version of my Dagobah toy box, as well as my tutorial to show you that there are ways around. There are building techniques that you can use to have objects residing inside of the boss fight spawner so that you can make your toy box look better and look the way you want it to look while not having to resign yourself to building around the confines of the boss fight spawner. So hope you find these techniques useful. Happy building. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you all soon in a future video. Take care.